So it's a pleasure to be here. And you know what? I've been in India for a few days. I just came from Hyderabad actually as well, and came here and met a bunch of folks yesterday. And the one thing that's really jumping out at me is the ecosystem in this country is incredible for our industry. We have academics, local government, national government people, GCC folks, people in service providers, people in startups, people in tech firms like your AWSs and your Microsofts, and then students as well. I met some students at some of the conferences I've been to as well. But this is a huge advantage in this country compared to almost everywhere else in the world, where everybody is united around one big common cause: growth. Everybody wants to grow and wants to invest. And the only concerns I've heard, especially from the younger folks, have been, is India growing too quickly? And my response is simply, just go with the flow. Keep growing, keep innovating. This is how things change when things grow. And maybe there's a little anxiety, but one of the things which I had a good discussion about the other day with an HR expert was the fact that the fear isn't now an economic recession. Our fear is a humanist recession, where we're worried about the economy, we're worried about politics. It's all gone a bit crazy in recent years with how people are voting and talking, and we're a little concerned about AI. So one of the things we need to stave off here is this fear of becoming obsolete, what we call Fobo, and maybe this fear of change. This is a very interesting time for all of us. When we look at what's happening in the world today, I love to talk about disruptions. That's not working. A disruption is really a radical change to an existing market due to technology innovation. And the first big disruption was really the wheel. Got us moving. And it wasn't really until the steam engine came along that we could have real power to power our engines, our trains, our boats, our factories, our windmills to make bread. We actually had a technology innovation right there until electricity came along, which created the fabric for everything to turn on, for appliances, for machines, and eventually that gave birth to the microchip, the computer, and then ultimately the internet, which gave us data. So we need to get the radical change to give us something new to make it a true disruption. And I include Gen AI as the latest big disruptive impact on us, because Gen AI is about creating content, whether it's charts or summarizing meetings or producing lovely pictures or videos or making avatars of our own selves, extensions of ourselves. These sorts of things. So we are now in the age of disruptively creating new content. And hey, it's exciting, but it's also a little frightening. But I truly believe that real change happens when it's brought by consumers. So when the internet appeared, you wouldn't survive if you couldn't put your company online. Everyone used the internet. With AI, us as consumers are starting to use AI in our own lives to improve the quality of our data and our content. And we are bringing AI into our organizations with our own skills and talent and curiosity. So this isn't just some latest technology innovation. We're not just waiting for the next ERP rollout. This is something that is being driven by people, and it's going to have a magnificent impact on business, and already is. So 2023 was when a lot of this really started, and it was really all about the what of AI. AI is an overarching concept, and within that is machine learning, and a subset of machine learning is really Gen AI. 2024, it was really about the why. Why are we doing this? It all sounds great, but our research shows we are using Gen AI to get better at predicting, to get better at personalizing our experiences, to get better at being productive, doing things more efficiently, doing more with less, scaling better without constantly having to add more effort. And 2025 is really, we're at the how. The questions everyone's asking is now, show me the use cases. How do I use this in reality? How do I actually get my staff to use this more effectively? There was one thing 10, 20 years ago, moving work from humans to humans. Hey, we'll take work from these people in New York, Buffalo, and we'll move it to these people in Bangalore, for example. People can relate to that. It's humans to humans. Now we're moving data from humans to machines, and this is something we've never really had to do before. And this is why it's so difficult, it's so complex, it's so hard. So let's look at our industry. This is what I call a mess chart. It's just showing the wonderful world of IT services, which you can see the top 20 odd providers all crashing down to earth a bit to fairly flat growth. A new reality, a new dawn of, hey, we can't keep doing things the same way that we've always done it. We can't just keep layering on more people, going to CIOs and expecting them to spend an extra 10% every year. They're already doing it on their licenses, or they can do it on people. So things have to change, and we all have to figure out how to do more with what we got. This isn't about doing more with less sometimes. It's about saying, hey, let's take what we have and start doing more with it. How do we get more productive? But things are changing. So here is some data that we pulled across 600 enterprises, major enterprises, at the end of last year. And you can see here that 75% of customers are BPO, 72% of IT services, and 62% of software SaaS customers are all looking to renegotiate their contracts when they come up for renewal. So we're at a time of change. We're at an exciting time where the purse strings are getting loosed. People are investing more in their data infrastructures, their cyber, their AI, their guardrails around AI. The money is there. We've come through a very stressful election in the US, which, whatever we think of the outcome of that, what it has done is it's freed up the paralysis, and companies are now investing with more confidence. And we also have a bunch of tech billionaires who've got a big say in US government policy, which isn't necessarily the worst thing for people who work in IT services who are looking for greater wallet share and greater growth. So here's another big warning to all of us who work in the services industry, whether we sell it, advise it, work in it. When we look out 3 to 5 years, and this is across 1,000 major global enterprises, you can see here that only 37% are not expecting a major impact on their use of services from AI. Nearly 60% are planning to replace people-run services with software-run services by 2030. Now, people are thinking, hey, but I don't see it moving that fast. It's only 2025. 2030 is still pretty long ways out. But I predict within 18 months, we're going to see a significant change in how we're approaching services, how we pay for services, how we view outcomes, how we view investing in technology. We're right at the heart of the change that's upon us, and we're asking the right questions is, how do we actually buy outcomes, sell outcomes? How do we actually invest in what we need to get the results that are going to make us successful? The answer is hybrid. Our pulse study of 510 leaders of big GBS, shared services centers, show that over the next few years, they're looking to leverage a hybrid model, which is a reliance on their GCC centers and their service provider relationships. And those in the orange here, you can see, who've been using GBS for over 15 years, are more pronounced to maintaining their ability to leverage their GCCs. And I'm really excited to hear the conversation over the course of today on the role of GCCs moving forward. I see this as an elevation in competency. Many enterprises, they may be getting a certain level of value from their outsourcing relationships, and they're saying, I need more. I want more control. I want this more customized. I don't just want to buy some templated service that delivers SAP support or whatever they're doing. So now we're getting a balance between how can enterprises get the perfect level of customized support that they control and then benefit from the relationships they have with third-party providers and consultants who can give them that level of expertise. But what we're seeing is a real increase in talent. So you're coming out of college in India today, you've got some great choices. You can sit in a cube all day and go work for a big service provider. You could go work for a big tech firm. You could go to a startup. You can do so many different things. But what we're seeing is a fungibility of skills and talent now across multiple entities, which is only good for India. This is going to improve everyone's game, because what we need to see is the leaders of the GCCs have real voices on the boards of the enterprises that they're working for. India needs to be at the forefront of value and creation, and not just supporting templatized processes just to keep the wheels on. That's really where we've got to go with this. India's done a great job keeping things going, running things efficiently, but moving from efficiency and effectiveness to innovation is critical. And if you can develop an AI center of excellence within India to really add that next layer of value and vision and innovation for your business, you are going in the right direction. You can just see here the trajectory that GCCs are on. 10% in annual growth over the next 4 years, 13% in spending, and headcount growing 14% each year. I'm amazed at the level of development going on with GCC centers, and it's really exciting. We're seeing, like big consulting firms really invest so they can support these. We're seeing service providers sort of really hybridizing their centers. And in almost every blue chip organization in the world having a strong India presence. And I keep hearing more and more names of companies coming to India for the first time, some of them, moving resources from other parts of the world. But this is a fantastic opportunity for the Indian ecosystem to really influence where global industry is going. So as I said earlier, forget fear of missing out. You need a big dose of Fobo, fear of becoming obsolete. This is the thing that we should all worry about. So how do I make sure I'm still adding value, I'm still relevant, I'm leveraging these tools to really help me do my job more effectively. I'm running boot camps with my colleagues, showing them how I'm using agentic or Gen AI tools to do my job faster and better and smarter. I'm also learning from my colleagues on what they're doing more effectively. We're learning from some of the younger kids and the Gen Zs who have a mindset of they only use these tools now. So we need to get over this, I'm just watching from the sidelines, to I need to be in this. I need to be right in here, understanding what are the tools that work for us? What's the right agentic stack for our business? And how do we get everybody trained on it and excited about it and bringing new ideas to the table constantly? So to sum up, I think where we're going with this disruption, I'm going to say a few things that might upset a few people, but they're true. SaaS is bloated. It's an overpriced mess that forces companies to pay for features they just don't need. IT services and consulting are too often a glorified human labor business masquerading as innovation. CIOs are still spending billions on static tools and labor-heavy services when AI-first solutions can do so much more for so much less. So we coined this phrase, and we really believe this is a long-term trajectory that we're seeing here called services as software, which is an AI-first automated service layer that's coming to obliterate everything in its path. No more billable hours, no more clunky SaaS. We are really moving on from many of the things that our industry grew up on for so many years. We're now going through this change. If we want to keep growing and we want to keep being successful and we want to avoid a race to obsolescence, this is where we need to shift. You saw Saurabh present this last night, so I'm not going to go through this in too much detail. And we will have these slides available so you can read the small print in your own time. But we've gone from staff org, technology-enabled services, where a lot of the technology service providers are today delivering their platforms like Infi, Topaz, TCS, Wisdom, Next, etc. We know a lot of these platform-led services. which are more platform-driven, leveraging built-in platforms that can be scaled around the business, to where we are moving, which is AI-led agentic services, which is augmenting human capabilities with smart AI agents to optimize processes and decision-making. And there's a lot of exciting tools out there in the market. I've been looking at Replit's Ghostwriter, a company called Lyzir, which we're actually building our own agentic on at HFS, GitHub, Emma, Minecorp. I can go through this. And eventually, how do we get to the world where we can start moving human work onto computers? This is where it's difficult, but this is where it's shifting. How do we mimic human activities, tasks, and behavior into software tools that are becoming more and more deliberate and intelligent at figuring out how to do this effectively for us? We've already seen the impacts of things like Project Strawberry from OpenAI, where you can seamlessly take somebody's appearance and somebody's voice and create an avatar of that individual within seconds. I mean, it's frightening, but it's here. This technology is right available. This isn't something that's far off into the future. We talk about quantum computing, which is very exciting, but it's still 5 years off because the technology isn't fully secure and functioning yet for real enterprise use. So services as software, we've looked at tools like Rhino and Builder, another company called Daybreak, which does supply chain solutions. They're able to take a lot more capabilities within a software application than requires people to run it. I saw one of these firms actually beat out a BPO firm on a deal recently, and they had 3 FTE running the platform. The service provider needed 35 FTE to run a mixture of platforms. And the client literally said, I like the technology. I want to invest in the technology. I don't care how many people you have running it, as long as you get it working and run effectively. So this is the mindset that's shifting from the buyer, which is, I don't need to keep buying lots and lots of bodies to do this. I actually just want to buy the technology and add resources where it makes the most sense and adds the most value. And adds the value where you can't mimic human behavior and you can't do everything in a piece of software. I mean, just looking at this in terms of features between SaaS services and software and services as software, SaaS is very static. Services are people-driven. Services as software are AI-driven. They're autonomous. SaaS, in terms of scalability, it can be often brittle and limited. It has lots of security issues and flaws and geo problems and integration issues. Companies still walking around with 115 HR platforms and things like that. Services are too labor intensive, whereas services as software is infinite. In terms of pricing, this is where things get very interesting and very creative. So with SaaS, it's all per seat, it's feature-based. With services, it's all FTE-based and billable hours. With services as software, we're paying for this on outcomes, on consumption. You're suddenly saying, look, can you do the job? Can you deliver me my outcomes? I will pay for that. I don't care if you've got 100 people delivering that or 20, right? Who's delivering this with the most robust, innovative, capable, cost-effective solution? And then finally, in terms of adaptability, SaaS is all about preset. We're buying a set way of doing things. SaaS companies love to sell dreams and outcomes, but they're ultimately selling a set of, here you go, figure it out. Services, to get adaptability, you have to customize it. You have to buy consulting. You have to say, look, I want to actually take something that we didn't agree to originally and now customize it because we need to go in a different direction. With services as software, it's dynamic and real time. So you're getting everything pulled in together, and then your ways of getting more adaptability isn't just, I need custom consulting all the time. I need to get more preset workflows. It's much more, how do we become more dynamic with how we consume services and how we operate? So we've spent some time figuring out the size of the markets that we operate, and you can see here between present day and 10 years time, we see services in terms of global services growing to 1.5 trillion up to 3 trillion. And we see software and SaaS growing from $1 trillion up to 2.5 trillion. Well, the reality is, when we bring in the services as software transformation, $1.5 trillion is going to appear as a market that's going to eat into both software and services today. The winner of services and software is yet to be decided. They're both very different types of companies with very different types of mindsets. Customers are also figuring out, how do I buy this stuff? How do I want to buy? Do I want to get locked into the services firm? Who's going to be my partner of choice to take me where I want to go? How do I operate in this insane ecosystem? I mean, there's so many different applications and infrastructure pieces I need to understand and learn. Right? The world is changing very dynamically. Month to month, we see new products appearing. Suddenly, DeepSeek appeared, and it's like, how do I understand this solution, which can supposedly distill very thirsty AI and do things much faster for me? So if you're on the service provider side, you need to become a real consultant to your clients on, how do I engage in this ecosystem? If you're in a GCC, you need to figure out, I need to support my business and understand this ecosystem on an ongoing basis. And I need the expertise and help to do that. So going into the future, it's fun to look at the past and see where it's all going. And we mentioned, we coined this in 2012 with RPA, but that was really the start of this AI continuum. And RPA was about, how do you follow instructions exactly? It was very manual. It's like, I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to bring this together using whatever patchwork technology and task automation necessary. This really didn't shift until GenAI came along, because suddenly we can create based on prompts. It's not so static. It's not so forced on us. And GenAI is a productivity amplifier that accelerates creative and analytical work. The agentic is where we're shifting next, and this is about understanding goals, figuring out how to achieve them. I mean, it's a much more collaborative actor that removes the need for constant human oversight of complex processes. And now we get to the exciting stuff, artificial general intelligence. Suddenly you've got technology that can think, reason, and learn like a human in any domain. You've got self-directed intelligence that can sometimes outperform human cognitive behavior. And eventually, we're supposed to be reaching something called artificial superintelligence, which is the true singularity. This is where you can suddenly access technology which can outperform human intelligence. It has real abilities to solve problems and innovate at scale. So we can see where this is going. We're on a real curve now of looking at technologies, and they're coming faster. Like the gap between RPA and GenAI was over 10 years. GenAI to agentic, 2 years. Agentic to AGI, probably 18 months. And AGI to artificial superintelligence. Kurzweil was probably right. 2029 could be about the time we start to see the Turing test show its results. So agentic systems are very interesting. So can I have a show of hands of people in the audience who've managed to create a single agent, a standalone agent that can perform, one specific task or function? Okay. How about who's produced a functional multi-agent, where you've got multiple agents working together within a single business function? So that could be a sales team of agents handling your qualifications, prospecting. Smaller number there. So. And has anyone got to the point where they're designing a horizontal multi-agent, where you've got different agents collaborating across multiple business functions? So it could be sales agents working with marketing agents, working with customer service agents across the business. We have one person there who is claiming they do that. Okay, I will talk to you later. The reality is we are seeing agentic take over work. A bunch of examples here about, for example, an investment firm integrating applications to deliver personalized financial insights. There was a big announcement recently where the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company has collaborated with G42, Microsoft, and AIQ to actually create solutions for accelerating their seismic surveys, which can reduce discovery of oil from months to days. Like Agentic is really helping their business. Intuit, the accounting software business, they've created Agentic AI, across its entire suite to streamline onboarding and classify customer information with minimal manual input. Good for small businesses, especially who want quick, fast, rapid adoption. And then in the back office, intelligent systems to process vendor invoices, match them with purchase orders, these types of things. They're not all exciting, but they get into play and they're working. And even just looking at the audience here, a lot of these are working in single standalone instances. We're starting to join them up, and then we're going to start to horizontalize across multiple business functions. But we're well underway. Here's another example of a multi-agent workflow. Just taking marketing, for example, you can create a planning agent that breaks down a CMO's campaign. That planning agent can then work with a research agent that gathers market intelligence, or a creative agent to develop compelling assets and messaging, or it could be a strategy agent to optimize the campaign across various marketing themes. Other types of agents can be brought into play, but ultimately, this workflow uses AI agents that can think, create, and collaborate adaptively like humans. The capability is already here, but how you actually move this into reality is exceptionally hard. How do you go to your CMO, for example, picking on poor Emma here, you might see her walking around somewhere, and say, hey, how do you move a bunch of your tasks into software? How do you say, look, rather than hire another 5 marketing executives, we need you to create some agents, and we need you to become educated on various types of software and really figure out how to do this. But this could be a finance function, it could be a supply chain function, it could be a cybersecurity function, but this is like, the Fobo. Your Fobo is, I don't want to take my job and automate it. What am I going to do? You're going to be the master of automating 70% of your job. So you're going to be way slicker and faster and better at what you do. And then you can then present this to your board, your partners, everybody at work, and everyone's going to come to you for advice on how do I do this in my function? Because this is about letting go. This is about being super smart and thinking, how do I work more efficiently? I run an analyst company, and we can now take a whole bunch of Excel flat files, which would take us a whole week to process and put into charts and analysis points and things. We can pump that through tools like Anthropic and Claude and all sorts of things, ChatGPT, and get incredible information very, very quickly and synthesize that saves us days and days of work. And that's great, because I'm an analyst. I can now go and write about this more. I can spend more time talking to exciting people and clients. I go to a few conferences and stuff. So there's so many things you can do with these technologies. So let's get into the challenges ahead as I wind this up. Maturity is low. Only 12% of enterprises, on our latest research that's only just been released, have actually embedded AI strategically to drive true business transformation. Those are companies who are looking at this enterprise-wide. 33% are in this sort of, we call them the Gen AI phase 2, which is more around growing business IT alignment. They're doing some moderate data integration. And then a slightly worrying 55% are still at the foundational stage, where it's very basic task automation, it's fairly siloed deployments. So, regardless of how advanced your company is, you're not alone. ChatGPT 3 was released barely 2 years ago, right? It's moved so quickly, most of the startups are struggling for funding and investment because it's just moved too quickly. This wasn't like the internet, which took 15, 20 years for applications to start to really evolve. So we're still at the early phases of this. And so we've got the advantage of jumping on and thinking, I need to ramp up my knowledge of these tools. Like everybody's got their ChatGPT account and run a few queries and prompts, but how do we take this to the different level of saying, my calendar is a mess. How do I fix that? How do I get my emails summarized more effectively? How can I synthesize this information better? How can I start to just use this in my day-to-day job so I don't have to keep doing the most routine, mundane activities? How do we get over this? We'll talk about this all day, but the new data we pulled off shows that the biggest debt we have to pay back to be effective with innovation and AI is culture, lack of C-level direction, resistance to change. Then it's technical debt, uprooting some of these applications and systems that have been holding us back for years. I mean, you look at companies and they don't seem to have a problem creating millions of data points. But how do you get those data points to get interlinked together to make sense? And I'm starting to hear about companies for the first time saying, we kind of need to start again. We need to sort of maybe just saw off some of this stuff because it's too expensive to maintain and run, and it isn't helping us in where we want to go. So how do we fix our technical debt, our data debt, skills, and then processes? Agentic is very process driven. It's how do we take human processes, you saw the marketing example, and mimic that and translate that into agents that can do a lot of this work for us. So there's a lot of debt that we need to repay, and we'll really dive into this throughout the course of today. There's also big issues. I won't read out this slide, you can read it in your own time. But in terms of building out those guardrails and regulatory compliance needs to make AI work effectively. The EU, I mean, they have a regulatory hammer that drops serious process deaths on everybody. You saw the Paris AI agreements going on this week. They still can't decide what they want to do with this. The US, what do we say? The developers are getting a sugar rush of innovation freedom. There's a lot more freedom to innovate in the United States right now and fight guardrails. How can we be more creative? There's a focus to say innovation is trumping resistance at this point. And in India, the wild west of AI, no specific laws, operates through frameworks and guidelines. Again, the Indian ecosystem, I think there's a massive opportunity here to adapt and figure out what enterprises are doing and how to leverage the ecosystem within the country to be more effective. So I'll finish up with how do we develop a nice dose of Fobo for ourselves. And I ran a LinkedIn poll recently about why are so many people getting laid off from their jobs? Is it more than cost reduction? So what we can see here is only 12% of my network, this is like 1,000 people, 1,100 people, it's actually companies using AI. It's 35% of them said it's because their skills no longer match the needs of the job. So this isn't so much my job's going to be automated away. It's saying my company can find people who can do things better than I can, particularly with AI. So we're under threat, not so much of losing our jobs, we're under threat of our companies hiring somebody who can do my job better than me. And that's where we need to develop a healthy sense of fear that I gotta get on top of this better. I need a story. I need to go to my boss and show them how I've embraced various tools and technologies that are available to make me more effective in my job. 45% of employees are either worried about job loss or resistance to change. So this is the problem. It's right here in our faces. People are nervous, they're scared. They don't want to take their job and move it into a piece of software. They don't trust their employers to do this effectively. This is all part of the cultural debt that we need to address as leaders within organizations. Half our people, they're nervous. There's a humanist depression that's happening, and we need to address this with our people and get people to trust more. I was saying to somebody last night, you need your company to behave like a dysfunctional family, right? We might not always see eye to eye, but we get on and we need to figure stuff out better effectively, because only 15% of employees are generally positive about AI adoption. Remember that, 15%, that's not good. These are global enterprises. So if most of your staff are sitting there feeling negative about this, you got a problem and you got to figure out how to fix that. We've got to get tech and business working together. Nearly half of tech spending is now outside of the sphere of the CIO's office. If you're a CIO today, you have a very hard job. You need to really work with your business counterparts to figure out how do we look at your processes and how do we enable them with these tools more effectively. We can't just buy Microsoft Copilot and roll it out and tick that AI box, right? We need to have a real business IT coming together of how we do this effectively. When we look at the skills, we spoke to business professionals, and the number one skill they're looking at today to be successful with AI is an ability to combine business skills with technical knowledge. The least important skill, believe it or not, is communication and collaboration, which was known as the number one skill back before pandemic. So it's the ability to combine business and tech and understand AI ethical practices. When we ask the same question to tech professionals outside of data science and machine learning, they also look to the ability to combine technical knowledge with business skills. This is the coming together of services and software, of people and technology. This is what it is. So, as Bob Dylan once sang, the times are changing, the lines are blurring. What does this really mean? Companies aren't ready. Outdated mindsets and debts shackling us. Half of us aren't even ready. Employers need to reward and recognize people. The technology is really, truly here. It's not a far off dream. It's ready, it's working. You're seeing the results right in front of you. We've got to remember that volatility is the new normal. We need to get our people out of this humanist recession and depression into positivity and excitement. Prepare your company to thrive amidst volatility. People want security. Let's behave like a dysfunctional family. And then I can't emphasize this enough, is look to your ecosystems. This is the number one advantage India has today. It has the best ecosystem of any country I visited in terms of everybody is engaged, looking at the same goals and outcomes, and you've got that at scale and abundance. And then finally, be brave and be fearing of becoming obsolete. This is the moment to act. Be bold, be decisive. The future will reward the leaders who take risks and seize the moment. Thank you very much.